Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you all for being here today on this special occasion. This is very momentous, not only for the Johnson family, but for the tennis community at large. And this incredibly special court and site have been dormant for 47 years. Dr. Johnson passed away on June 28, 1971, and with his passing, this site and landmark went dark as well. 25 years before 1971, in 1946, it all began. A journey that led to Althea Gibson being the first African American male or female to play in the U.S. Nationals. From that point forward, the ATA Junior Development Program, which Dr. Johnson established in 1951, was born, and more than 200 juniors, most of them African American, would play on this court and hone their considerable tennis and life skills as part of the program. We are fortunate, very fortunate, to have some of those players here today. Some of Dr. Johnson's family are also present today, and I would like to quickly introduce them and have them stand as I call their names. Carolyn Walty Johnson Moore, Dr. Johnson's daughter. Please stand and applaud. Also with Carolyn today are her children, Shelley Moore Davis. Please stand. And Dr. J's grandson, Garrett Moore, right there. Eileen Johnson Williams, my older sister and granddaughter of Dr. Johnson. Got to get the jabs in when you got the mic.
You only got so much longer.
Alexis Williams, the great-granddaughter and Eileen's daughter. And Dylan Williams, also great-granddaughter and Eileen's daughter. I saw him here earlier, my brother, Robert Walter Johnson III. I don't know if he's there. Also here. And then lastly, Zoe Johnson, my daughter, who's in the back there with the Fairfax Racquet Club t-shirt. And Elizabeth Burke, my wife, and Zoe's mom. I actually skipped over my oldest sister, Jolyn. How could I do that? That's worth a tennis ball in the eye. Jolyn Johnson Smith, granddaughter and mother of Evan Smith. Where is Evan? Okay, and Jeff, your husband? Lost somewhere. Anyway. Beyond the family present today, we have some very important ambassadors from the Junior Development Program in the audience. Those leaders include Ann Koger, Lenny Simpson, and Henry Kennedy Jr. I am very excited to have each of them here today, not because of what they accomplished while being part of Dr. J's traveling team, but more importantly, what they've accomplished since they left the program. Ann Koger was the head coach for the ladies tennis team at Haverford College in Haverford, PA for 35 years. Under her leadership, the women's team had a record of 359 to 241. She coached 3 conference singles champions, 2 conference doubles champions, and a host of players with conference, regional, and national rankings under her direction. Ann's devotion to tennis has earned her a spot in the United States Tennis Association Middle States Hall of Fame class of 2010. She was also inducted as a member of the Black Tennis Hall of Fame the same year. Ann played on the Virginia Slims Tour, professional tour, from 1973 to 1977. She has been ranked at many levels of play in the USTA and the ATA. Please, a warm hand for Ann and what she's done. Lenny Simpson entered the junior tennis circuit at age 9 by way of Dr. Johnson's junior development team in 1957. He traveled and roomed with Arthur Ashe on the predominantly white tennis circuit for almost a decade. He and Arthur became good friends during that time. Simpson was ranked in the top 10 nationally in every age group as a junior in both singles and doubles. In the early 60s, he won the ATA National Boys Singles and Doubles Championships. Simpson also won the 1964 USLTA Eastern Boys 14 and Under singles title at Forest Hills, defeating Dick Stockton. Dick Stockton happened to be a top tenner in the world, so hats off to Lenny on that. Later that same year, at age 15, he became the youngest male to ever play at the U.S. National Championships at Forest Hills. He won his first round match, then lost to Arthur Ashe in the second round. He competed at the U.S. National Championships in 1964, 1965, and 1966. Lenny is established and is currently the executive director of the One Love Tennis Foundation, a nonprofit focused on improving the lives of children through the sport of tennis and education. The other site that is central to the story of Althea Gibson's accomplishments on and off the courts in Wilmington, North Carolina, the home of Dr. Hubert Eaton, where Althea, Arthur, and many other juniors trained under the watchful eye of Dr. Eaton. Lenny has focused on capturing that home, restoring that court, and preserving that history, just like we're trying to do here. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Henry Kennedy, my doubles partner, occasionally when he wants to play with me. He received a bachelor's degree from Princeton University in 1970 and a law degree from Harvard in 1973. He was an assistant United States attorney for the District of Columbia between 1973 and 76. He served as United States Magistrate of the United States District Court for the District of Columbia between 76 and 79. He was appointed Associate Judge of the Superior Court of the District of Columbia in December 1979, where he served until he was appointed as a federal judge in September 1977. On May 15, 1997, Kennedy was nominated by President Clinton to a seat on the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. Kennedy was confirmed by the United States Senate on September 4, 1997, and received his commission on September 18th until 2011. Incredible history and profession. Those are just 3 examples of what the Junior Development Program did for the lives of people who participated here. It wasn't about tennis 24/7, but it was also about improving your lives for the future. Whether you were the first child to go to college in your family or graduate school, everybody was pushing the envelope as much as they could, and so we got to congratulate what Dr. Johnson did and what these students did while they were here. In addition to these distinguished Junior Development Program participants, we have also been fortunate to have Arthur Ashe's brother, Johnny, and his wife in the audience today. Please stand if you would. In addition to the Ashe family, we also have the pleasure of having the current president and CEO of the International Tennis Hall of Fame, Todd Martin, with us. Please give a hand. And lastly, we have the good fortune to have Katrina Adams, the current chairman of the board and president for the USTA, with us today. And for those of you who don't know, Katrina is the first African American to hold that position and the first person ever to serve 2 terms in the role of president. It is a tremendous credit to her leadership and the work she has been leading since taking on that assignment. Most importantly, the Whirlwind Johnson Foundation, without the ongoing support of Katrina Adams and the entire USDA organization and many others, the restoration of this important landmark would not have been possible. In addition to the USTA, supporters include Centera Partners, Wilson Sporting Goods, Wilson West LiveSay Advertising, Musco Lighting, Venable LLP, Virginia Tennis Foundation, among many individual donations. So thank you. I'm going to turn the mic over to my aunt and the daughter of Dr. Johnson, Carolyn Walty Moore Johnson.
That was a job, wasn't it? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm so happy to see you and so happy to be here. I bring greetings from the family of Dr. Robert Walter Johnson. 47 years ago, my father passed, and with his passing, this court that you see behind you lay still. I don't know, I just feel like we need to think about that. Think about the time that passed and what we have today. His dream to help young people develop their great potential in life through the game of tennis was deferred. He believed that setting goals, hard work, and determination to reach those goals were the keys to success. He also believed in fair play, on the court and in life. And in life, most importantly. We are here today to continue his dream by energizing this court with a renewed breath of life, hope, and belief that others will again prevail through the game of tennis. Tennis offered a lot of opportunity, as we all know, but there had to be someone, somewhere, to guide and to let you know that there was more than just a tennis court that was important. It was how you conducted yourself through life. Our heartfelt thanks go to the Whirlwind Johnson Foundation, the generous sponsors and contributors, Lange and other family members, and countless others for making this day possible. And I got a little choked up right there because I enjoyed the tennis court. I didn't play, but my favorite place was right there on the swings. And swinging and looking through under those huge trees was just a wonderland to me. I just remember it. I remember a lot of it. I remember some of you, Lenny. And I want you to know that I again am very thankful and happy God blessed me to be here to see this day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Walty, thank you so much. That was wonderful. Very heartfelt. Dr. Johnson was part of the Omega fraternity, and the Lynchburg chapter of the Omegas has made a commitment to the organization as well. And I'm going to bring up Lee Vern Marshall, who's on the board of the Whirlwind Johnson Foundation, who will speak to that donation and turn it over to you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Vern Marshall, retired principal from Lynchburg City Schools. You know, I'm reminded of a book that Dr. Herbert Eaton wrote entitled Every Man Should Try. You know, being from Wilmington, North Carolina, you know, everyone had to read that book. Dr. Johnson was a great Omega man. You know, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated was founded November 17th, 1911 at Howard University. We always focus on our 4 cardinal principles: manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. Dr. Johnson was voted Omega Man of the Year nationally and local, so he was a great Omega Man. On behalf of the Gamma Omega chapter, we'd like to give a donation of $1,000 to the foundation. Lance.
Thank you so much, Levern, and thanks to the Omegas for their continued support. I'm going to bring up the Junior Development Program standouts together because I want them to share stories of what it was like to be here during that period and what it was like to be part of Dr. J's charges. So Lenny Simpson, Ann Koger, and Henry Kennedy Jr., please come up and share your stories.
No, go ahead. Be my guest. Ladies first.
Lenny's such a gentleman. He's such a gentleman. Ladies first. I was fortunate enough to be under the tutelage of Dr. Johnson. And one of the things that I best can remember is that he demanded excellence. He demanded that you respect and capture the meaning of discipline. And he also taught you how to hold your head high, win, lose, or draw, and be the best you can be. And that's not to say that we didn't train, we didn't run, we didn't do drills and all of that stuff. Sometime he'd come home early and we weren't out there on the court, and he knew we were down in the basement chilling our heels down there. And he'd get out here and get things done, and you had extra. So he was quite a taskmaster. And I was also fortunate to talk to an athletic director from Lincoln University who had the great charge of being around when all the former athletes would come back for their reunion. And he was a legend. And that's how he got his nickname Whirlwind, because he was just fantastic. He would spin around on the football field and they looked where he was and he'd be down there scoring a goal. He was something else. But this man had an ethic that just rubbed off on all of us, and you were bound to embrace it. And I was telling somebody today, they said, how did you like the court? I said, well, if Doc came home at lunchtime and it wasn't pristine, he said, when I come back home, that court better look like nobody has touched it. It's perfect condition. And then if he got home at dinner time, he would have us out here with this big metal roller. A lot of people don't know what that big roller is, and we'd have to pull that roller and then take the dragger, the little chain thing, and drag that court. And we had to make sure the nails were down and the lines were cloth. They had to be swept. And of course, we thought after dinner we'd go back out and play tennis. Not usually, because he said, well, you're not going to mess up my court until tomorrow. You better get some rest because you have double duty. But he was fabulous, and for all of the tasks that he put upon us, and it wasn't all about winning and losing. It was about, as they say, how you play the game, and if you did your best. I think that everyone who knew Doc, and we were allowed to call him Doc, okay, that's what you took with you through life. So I'm pretty sure I've gone over time, and I'm going to let my prestigious alums next.
Go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Kennedy.
Kennedy.
I'm so pleased to be here today and to see so many of you who are here to attend this historic event. It's even more gratifying for me, as this occasion also is a kind of reunion. I see people whom I have not seen in many, many years, such as Ann Koger and Linward Simpson. In fact, this is the first I have seen Lenny since that fateful summer of 1965. 53 years ago. 53 years ago, Lenny.
I know it. Believe me, I know it. I feel it too. 53 years.
When we both participated in Dr. Johnson's Junior Development Program. That was a wonderfully constructive and thoroughly endurable time for me, and also transformative. I was exposed to top-notch players and coaching, the opportunity to travel as never before to tournaments along the East Coast and Midwest, and most importantly, was the beneficiary of priceless mentoring and life lessons. The life lessons were geared to tennis, but were transferable to other phases of life as well. Some of them can be easily encapsulated. 1, there is no substitute for hard work. 2, one must carry himself with dignity and represent at all times. 3, more important than the will to win, itself a necessary ingredient for success, is the will to prepare to win, an even more essential ingredient for success. And 4, never let it be said that you did anything other than play hard and play fair. So with the rest of you, I honor and thank Dr. Johnson for all that he accomplished during his lifetime, and specifically for what he did for me. Also, I thank and commend Lange, who had been the driving force behind the effort to restore Dr. Johnson's home and the court he used to make a difference in the lives of so many. Truly, Lange. Finally, I commend the United States Tennis Association for supporting this effort. It is profoundly significant that this support comes when the head of the USTA is led by an African-American woman, Katrina Adams. Dr. Johnson is very proud and extremely gratified.
Good afternoon. I don't have anything to speak from a sheet or anything, so I'm just going to speak from my heart. I came on this team from Wilmington, North Carolina at the age of 9 in 1957. I was on the team here until 1968. Truly, Dr. Johnson, I have a lot of heroes in my life, but Dr. Johnson was my hero. Just an incredible man. The one thing that I regret so much is that I could not attend his funeral. I was playing in Europe at that particular time. But Lange, I want to congratulate you, the USTA, Katrina, Todd Martin, everyone, because this is truly a very special day. And to get this done, to see this court like this, and when I played on that court, those lines were not that straight. I will tell you that right now. Those lines were as crooked as they could be. But see, you got to understand something. That was an advantage to us, because we played on straight lines. It was like, whoa. That ball that we've been hitting that we thought was out is now in. So those were great memories of those lines. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, Dr. Johnson stood for everything that every man should stand for in life. The purpose of who you are, what you are, where you're going in life. How important it is to have something between your ears and to have those role models around you. To take a young boy or girl at my age from Wilmington, North Carolina, my most formative years, Those were the most important times and years of my entire life. From 9 years of age to 18, and to have been under the tutelage and under the guidance and direction of your grandfather is just totally incredible to me. And I think it is very interesting, not coincidental, that Dr. Johnson's grandson is doing the same identical thing that we're doing in Wilmington, North Carolina, at Dr. Hubert Eaton's home. And Dr. Johnson and Dr. Eaton were best friends. 65 years later, we are doing the same identical thing. That is amazing to me. I could stand up here all day and tell you so many stories. But I remember Walty when I first came here, 9 years of age. And I got homesick at 9, and I wanted to go home and leave. And Walty was consoling me and trying to get me through that. And finally, she just called my mom and my dad, and they came up and spent 3 or 4 days here, and I was okay after that. But I remember this yard in a different way.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I remember those rose beds over there. I remember those hedges, cutting those hedges, cleaning out those rose beds. They had to be pristine, immaculate, not a weed in those rose beds. This yard. But I remember something even better. You talked about that swing. There used to be a cherry tree here.
That's right.
I was going to mention that.
That cherry tree.
I was going to talk about
Oh, I love that cherry tree. Absolutely. But this is a very, very special moment for me to be here with my cohort, Ann Koger. Her mom took care of me on the circuit, on the ATA circuit. To be here with my man Henry Kennedy, and to see all of you. Thank you so very, very much for coming. Thank you for everything that you're doing to make this project successful. And guys, I want to leave you with a challenge today. Okay? Now, we cannot get this far and stop. There's a ton of work to be done. That home, that shed, the rest of this property, this has to continue. This cannot stop just because we have this beautiful court and all of this contributions and all of this taking part of the action that is occurring, and the great work from Katrina and her leadership with the USTA and what is going on with all of these projects. I challenge each and every one of you, do what you can to support and carry on the finishing product of this project and make it hugely successful. Dr. Johnson would be proud of each and every one, and I know he's got to be smiling down on you, young man, today, and your family today. Thank you very much. What's up? You're so good. Just from the heart, man. Just from the heart. Just from the heart.
That is truly incredible, and I am so glad I asked the three of you to come forward and share with the audience what you experienced and what you remember. Incredible stories. Little verklempt. Next up, needs no introduction, was a top flight player way back when, top 4 in the world, I believe, at one point. Currently the president and CEO of the International Tennis Hall of Fame, Todd Martin. Please come forward.
If my heart were a little shorter, I could speak from my heart too, but I need paper, Lenny.
Thanks.
The International Tennis Hall of Fame, for those of you who don't know, is in Newport, Rhode Island. It is not only a Hall of Fame, but it's really the home of the history of the sport. And we're charged with preserving and promoting the history of this great sport and also celebrating the champions. Dr. Johnson was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and you'll see his plaque up here in 2009. In Arthur Ashe's book, Days of Grace, he starts by stating that he lived by one rule. Don't do anything you wouldn't want to tell your mom you're doing. It's pretty simple, pretty direct, and it's pretty good guidance. Here on Pierce Street, Arthur for sure received similar guidance and lived by a similar rule. From what I've read, Dr. Johnson taught values like perseverance, patience, sportsmanship, etiquette, hard work, and humility. Arthur obviously embodied all of those. I knew him. I didn't get to know Althea. I know Lenny. I've just met a few of the others. The product of his work was significant and across the board successful. Dr. Johnson provided the guidance, the instruction, but the most amazing thing to me, the venue, the home. I was the product of an amazing combination of parenting and coaching and mentorship. My parents were the only one that gave me a home. I never had to stay in somebody else's house to be able to do what I loved. And Dr. Johnson did it for so many. For Arthur and Althea and countless others, Dr. Johnson shaped their lives for the future, shaped their lives to be successful in all fields. Congratulations. I'd rather have your biography than mine. And really helped build the foundation from which people like Althea and Arthur changed the world. Amazingly, on this court, in its last crooked line iteration, 3 Hall of Fame careers were born. But without the one, would there have been the other 2? No certainty there. When I was on my way down today from Newport, I was reflecting on something else, and that's the word legacy. So many seek legacy. So many do. And legacy is really important. But those who seek impact create legacy as a byproduct. Dr. Johnson obviously sought impact far before his legacy was ever written. Dr. Johnson's legacy lives on at the Hall of Fame, fortunately, thanks to the hard work of Lange, the Johnson family, the Johnson Foundation, the Lynchburg community, and the greater tennis community from here. The legacy lives on here as well. But, much more importantly, his impact will live on for generations to come. So congratulations, Lange. I'm a great admirer of the work that you've done. We should all have been so fortunate to have had people like Dr. Johnson in our lives, to come from families like the Johnson family. But more importantly, thank God that people like Dr. Johnson did so much for others outside of his family, or else we wouldn't be here today. The restoration of this historic landmark means an awful lot. The Hall of Fame is a historic landmark. This landmark is vitally important to the sport, but I would also suggest that it's vitally important to the society at large. So thank you for having me. It's an absolute honor on behalf of all the Hall of Fame to be here. Thank you.
Well, as I mentioned before, we are very fortunate to have one of the stalwarts, Arthur. He came in 1953 and started here and I knew him pretty well. I would spend time at a very early age warming him up before matches in the DC area when I was 12 and 13 with my brother Julian. And those memories are great. I'm going to bring up Johnny Ashe, his brother, who, wonderful human being, and just an incredible brother as well.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello. I'm going to make this as quick as possible. Believe me. I know I speak today for all of us that passed this way. Okay? When I say it's great what you're doing, Lange, and please believe me, those of us who have passed this way are going to help you get to where it should be. Okay, you will hear from us. And to Dr. J's family. Q, I haven't seen you since. I won't give her a year. But we applaud you. We definitely applaud you and your family. Lange, tell me something. Where and what would the world of tennis be? What the world would be without your grandfather? Think about it. I want all of you all to ponder that. Just ponder it. Just think about it. Okay? She wouldn't be sitting there. He wouldn't be sitting there. You wouldn't be sitting there. I would definitely not be standing here. Okay? A man who, for the better part of his life, unselfishly helped others to realize their dreams. In so doing, he realized a dream of his own that he shared with others from the American Tennis Association. Anybody from the ATA here? We're all here? Okay, we're all here. I'm talking about the others.
Yes, the others.
Okay? The others. That dream was to have a player of color win the National Interscholastics. At the time, that was played at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, of all places.
Correct.
Okay? Arthur was the realization of that dream. When we came here, we expected to practice tennis. Okay? But we left here having received life lessons. Dr. J had a captive audience. He spoke, we listened. The principles and traits of positive leadership were taught and learned here. The necessity of and how to live a clean life was preached here. Here, the only question about college was not if you were going, but where you're going. That was Dr. J. Dr. J embodied a principle that my father tried to instill in Arthur and I at an early age. Some of you have heard me talk about this before. If you do the right thing for the right reasons, righteous people will support you, knowing that it will make a difference to somebody 100 years from today. Dr. J labored knowing that if you make a difference in a child's life, not only do you change the child's family, but you change the lives of all that they come in contact with. There is no way for us to count the numbers of lives who have been influenced or enhanced by those fortunate enough to pass this way, no matter what our chosen endeavors. If Arthur were here, he'd probably look out in the crowd and he would exclaim, those of you who would know him would understand, It's a great day. Okay? He would get that questioning look on your face, as you all have given me, and say, day for the race. It's a great day for the race. As you ask yourselves what this day means, those of us who pass this way will tell you something that we realized years ago, that as of this day, 1422 Pierce Street, Lynchburg, Virginia, the home and tennis courts belonging to Dr. R. Walter Whirlwind Johnson, is truly to us hallowed ground.
Thank you so much, Johnny. And I'm going to bring forward now Katrina Adams, the chairman of the board and president of the USTA, and turn over the mic.
Thank you very much, Lange, and good afternoon, everyone. Let me first say what an honor and a privilege it is for me to be here today and to have this opportunity to share a few words on such an historic and momentous occasion as this. Just being here today in this very special place, surrounded by so many friends and familiar faces, faces who grew up here on this significant property, is a feeling that is frankly hard to describe. This historic court, so long neglected, has returned to life, and I am particularly proud that the USTA was able to play such a significant role in the refurbishment. I'd like to recognize Virgil Christian for taking the lead on behalf of the USTA in making this happen, alongside with David Lasota, one of our consultants and engineers for the court, as well as Lance Johnson and other family members, for really making this a reality. What we see here is a remarkable makeover, as the court is now pristine, a mirror image with straight lines, as the way it was many decades ago. That in itself is worth celebrating. But more, with this court's rebirth, so much history, so many memories, and so much magic likewise come back to life here, as does the lasting legacy of a man who truly defined the word trailblazer, Dr. Robert Walter Whirlwind Johnson. And that is the thing most worth celebrating. This is a reverent place, and this magnificent court is indeed hallowed ground. But it is also a place of celebration, and that is what brings us all here today. We celebrate the life of a singular man and the grand history of the single court, which together provided the foundation for a future that could not even have been imagined by those who put the first ball in play here. The seeds, long ago planted in the clay of this court by the caring and careful hands of Dr. Johnson, produced a fertile field of remarkable tennis talent that was nurtured and refined by a man who understood the powerful potential of our great sport to provide people of color with the vehicle that might drive them toward their dreams. Champions grew from this clay of this single court here in Lynchburg, Virginia. Great champions that you heard earlier, like Althea Gibson, the first black player to compete in the U.S. National Championships and Wimbledon, the champion of both those events in 1957 and 1958. Champions like Arthur Ashe, who honed his skills as a young man here under the watchful eye of Dr. Johnson and rose from this place to win both the U.S. Open and Wimbledon, while at the same time becoming one of our sports and one of our society's most distinguished, thoughtful, and well-respected representatives. I'm sure that neither Althea nor Arthur could have possibly dreamt that this might reach such incredible summits from such humble beginnings. But Dr. Johnson not only dreamt it, he believed it. Impossible was simply not a word in his vocabulary. He was a great coach, certainly, but Dr. Johnson was so much more So good was his soul, so powerful his persistence. Dr. Johnson became an unstoppable force, tirelessly swinging a sledgehammer at the barriers that had so long existed in a sport, where whites only was much more than an edict on proper court attire. In founding the Junior Development Program of the American Tennis Association, setting up his summer camp here, and personally sponsoring and mentoring so many young black players who just happened to love a sport that did not love them back, he managed eventually to crack open a door that many thought could never be opened. Through that small opening, champions like Althea and Arthur slipped through. Their amazing talents and great grace shine a brilliant light not only upon themselves, but on their race. Change was hardly immediate, but their very presence on the world stage that tennis provides started to raise awareness and understanding. A society that could never understand their struggles could not deny their talent. Of course, Althea and later Arthur would need to work twice as hard, carry themselves with 3 times the grace, and display a level of sportsmanship that was always beyond reproach. They would need to persevere when most would find that level of perseverance impossible. But that was the easy part the easy part of it for them, because they had learned these things on the court, this court, under the tutelage of Dr. Johnson. Of her many accomplishments, Althea said, "I always wanted to be somebody. If I made it, it's half because I was game enough to take a lot of punishment along the way, and half because there were a lot of people who cared enough to help me." Dr. Johnson cared enough to prepare both Althea and Arthur, not just to be champions of the sport, but champions in life, champions of people, champions of the world. He understood, as they did, that so many other people depended on that. They all knew that despite all their work and struggle in kicking the door open, it could close much more easily at any time. And they understood that those who'd made it through owed it to those who would follow not to let that happen, and they never did. As Arthur once said, true heroism is remarkably sober, very undramatic. It is not the urge to surpass all others at whatever cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever cost. That is so true. The generations that have followed, myself included, owe so much of what we have to Althea and Arthur and Dr. Johnson. Today, our paths remain an uneven one, but until that door was opened, there was no path at all. All of us, not just those who went from here to become champions and icons, but every person of color who loves the sport of tennis and has utilized its remarkable power to lift ourselves to a better place, has our roots right here in this court, which also included my WTA coach, Willis Thomas Jr. It is up to us now to serve those who follow in our footsteps so that their paths might be that much easier. So as we celebrate today, we celebrate the doctors, the lawyers, the civic leaders, and all the others who have had tennis, who have used tennis to open doors of opportunity. We celebrate the young people who have used tennis to earn a college scholarship and get a great education. We celebrate the kids of dozens of diverse communities who will get involved in this lifetime sport and reap the bounty of benefits that go along with it as they too make their way along that same path. Of course, the struggles continue for people of color, but today, the greatest woman ever to play the sport of tennis professionally, Serena Williams, is African American. The defending U.S. women's singles champion, Sloane Stephens, is African American. Heck, even the president of the United States Tennis Association, which in its former life as a USLTA banned people of color from playing in its tournaments, is African American. 3 African Americans as leading peers and leading people in our sport. I'd like to think that Dr. Johnson would be smiling particularly bright today because of that. I'd also like to think that he is right here with us today, that our audience is full of the ghosts of those who use this court as a starting point towards a better life. I'd like to think that they are proud of what we have done here and proud of the things that we plan to continue to do here to honor their legacy, not just with this court, but with the entire property, as mentioned earlier. This year marks the 50th anniversary of Arthur's triumph in its inaugural U.S. Open, as well as the 60th anniversary of Althea Gibson's second U.S. championship title. Both of those anniversaries represent significant milestones in the history of our sport and in our society. I know that we will celebrate both those milestones at this year's U.S. Open. But neither of those historic milestones would likely have occurred were it not for this place, for this court, and a thoughtful visionary who preached perseverance, patience, sportsmanship, and hard work as a way to build a bridge between dreams and reality. Those are the things that we celebrate today, and I am proud, very proud to be a part of that celebration. So congratulations to the Johnson family for having a vision and not stopping until that vision was fulfilled. Only stopping here and continuing there. And congratulations to the Whirlwind Johnson Foundation. This is an extraordinary vision. I thank you all for being here, and I thank you for allowing me to be a part of today's magnificent celebration.
Thank you so much, Katrina. That was a very heartfelt sharing that you did there, and I think we all feel the same way. This is a very special place, and we are desperately proud of where we are now and very hopeful about the future of what will happen to this site. So kudos for that. We're going to adjourn to the tennis court, a few of us, to do the ribbon cutting ceremony. Katrina, Todd, Johnny, Welty, Garrett, Shelley, Jolynn, Eileen, please join us up on the court so we can do a quick ribbon cutting. And if people want to come up and view from there, that's fine. We'll do that and then move forward.
Okay, on a count of three. You ready?
Ready?
1, 2, 3. Woo-hoo! Kick the ball. There we go.
Heads up. First serve happening.
Here we go. I got you, Johnny. Are we ready?
Yeah, here we go. All
right. Is that it? Oh, wait, second serve? Second serve.